Reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, Lord.
Jesus said to the Pharisees, "There was a rich man who dressed in purple garments and fine linen, and dined sumptuously each day. And lying at his door was a poor man named Lazarus, covered with sores, who would gladly have eaten his fill of the scraps that fell from the rich man's table. Dogs even used to come and lick his sores. When the poor man died, he was carried away by angels to the bosom of Abraham. The rich man also died and was buried. And from the netherworld, where he was in torment, he raised his eyes and saw Abraham far off, and Lazarus at his side. And he cried out, 'Father Abraham, have pity on me. Send Lazarus to dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am suffering torment in these flames.' Abraham replied, 'My child, remember that you received what was good during your lifetime, while Lazarus likewise received what was bad. But now he is comforted here, whereas you are tormented. Moreover, between us and you, a great chasm is established, to prevent anyone from crossing who might wish to go from our side to yours, or from your side to ours.' He said, 'Then I beg you, Father, send him to my father's house, for I have 5 brothers, so that he may warn them, lest they too come to this place of torment.' But Abraham replied, 'They have Moses and the prophets. Let them listen to them.' He said, 'Oh no, Father Abraham. But if someone from the dead goes to them, they will repent.' Then Abraham said, 'If they will not listen to Moses and the prophets, neither will they be persuaded if someone should rise from the dead.'" The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
How interconnected and interdependent we are. Lazarus was the rich man's invitation to choose salvation, but he failed to choose it. Instead of using the blessings and gifts that God had given him to take care of the people in need around him, he selfishly chose to keep them for himself, not even offering the scraps from his table. Had he chosen to be generous to Lazarus, as God was to him, he too could have been resting in the bosom of Abraham with Lazarus. Jesus was really blasting the Pharisees again for their love of money and how they would distort the law to avoid taking care of the poor and avoid giving their most valuable offerings to God. He is trying to show them that the path they are on will lead to eternal torment, not because God will punish them, but because by their selfishness they created a great chasm between themselves and God's kingdom, his communion of love, his love for them. Hearing this gospel used to make me squirm and ask, "Am I that rich man?" Ouch. Now I don't squirm anymore. I know I am that rich man. And when you look at the distribution of wealth among the world's population, you're all right there with me. We're all rich men. But does that mean that we're all headed for eternal torment? Well, that depends. That depends on our Lazarus. Who is our Lazarus? That's like the question the scribe asked Jesus, "Who is my neighbor?" To which Jesus offered the parable of the Good Samaritan. So, who is our Lazarus? Who did God put in our life who is in need? Is it someone suffering in illness who needs our care or strength? Is it someone being released from prison that needs a job? Or maybe someone in prison that needs encouragement or guidance? Is it a family struggling to make ends meet through loss of work or mounting health care bills? Is it an elderly parent who is confused or forgetful? Is it a niece or nephew suffering from depression or drug addiction? Is it a parent struggling to care for a child with disabilities? Or a couple struggling in their marriage, in need of support and encouragement? Is it a friend coping with the loss of a spouse through death or through divorce? Is it a young person confused and questioning their sexuality? Or is there a young woman afraid and unsure of how to deal with an unexpected pregnancy? These are our Lazaruses, our invitation to choose salvation. When we reach out to share the gifts that God's given us, our time, talent, or treasure, with our Lazarus, we are filling in the great chasm between us and God's kingdom. That chasm is our selfishness. The more we reach out to share what we have, the more we fill it in and move from the vice of selfishness to the virtue of charity. We can then begin to see and experience God's kingdom. Mother Teresa was cleaning the wounds of a leper. A man observing her told her, "I wouldn't do that for $1 million. She continued cleaning and responded, "Neither would I, but I would gladly do it for Christ." Can we see Christ in our Lazarus? Are our eyes open enough to see the kingdom? People responding in love to the needs of others. If we could not recognize the opportunity to respond in the previous examples, there are many charities and ministries that are worth supporting. The Bissonette House across from ECMC. Nativity parishioners bring a meal on the third Thursday of every month and sit and eat and talk with the men who are on parole and transitioning to life in the community. Family Promise, a ministry that shelters homeless families while they find a residence. Nativity parishioners bring and share a meal with the families on a Saturday, a great way to involve your children in a family ministry. Hearts and Hands, an Akron-based ministry to help the frail and vulnerable to stay in the home of their choice and to assist their primary caregivers. Buffalo is participating in 40 Days for Life over the next several weeks. It's a community-based pro-life campaign to turn our hearts from a culture of death to a culture of life through prayer, fasting, and peaceful vigil. Next Sunday is Respect Life Sunday. Join with many Nativity parishioners in the Life Chain at Main Street and Niagara Falls Boulevard from 2 to 3 p.m. for an hour of prayer and silent witness to our community to remind us of the dignity of all human life. This Tuesday at 6:30 in the announcements is a presentation in the Monsignor Pa Center on opportunities to respond to ecological and social challenges around us. If you have a heart for international charities, there's always Catholic Relief Services or the Father Ray Foundation in Thailand. If you want to support something closer to home, Nativity School Gala is coming up on November 8th. As a deacon, my primary focus is on ministries of charity. There is much work to be done. There is so much need all around us. I will try not to run short of ideas for us to take Christ, whom we receive in this Eucharist, and share him with our Lazarus. But I need your help. Yours are the hands and feet that bring Christ into our world. Will you gladly do it for Christ?